Welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show, where we help top leaders find their pathway to incredible success and a lifetime of happiness. Here is your host, Tom
Dutta,
the
Quiet Warrior. All right, everybody, I got a little excited in the studio here this morning. I'm excited because there's a guy sitting in the green room, and it's like, I got to get him out here. But before I do that, welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show. We are live streaming across LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Did you know that you can chat with the host and the guests if you're on any of those platforms? Please go to the YouTube channel, Tom Dutta, subscribe. That builds my followers and also helps us honor the guest today, get his story out there, which is phenomenal. Hey, Duncan, I know you're sitting in the green room. They already have somebody on giving us a big kudos about watching the show. Let me bring Duncan onto the show and tell you a little about him. Welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show, Duncan.
Morning, Tom. Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
All right.
Early Vancouver morning.
Yeah, everybody, you can already see how energetic Duncan is. Most people say morning, Tom. He said it 3 times. I mean, how's that for a quiet warrior? I want to just tell a few people, everybody, Duncan, a few things about you. But first of all, for my audience, you will know if you've been following my story, I live well with managing depression and anxiety. And I've gone through another cycle of depression. It's since my injury. I have double vision, some issues with my eyes. And I'm the first interviewer, I believe, to talk about that. I don't see anybody talk about their limitations. So I am here, and I'm excited because people like Duncan bring the best out of me. He's a triathlete, athlete, marathoner, father, insurance professional, adventurer, children's charity supporter, communicator. He's got a zest for life. He's optimistic, and I know this from knowing him, looking for the good and hope in everything, and we kind of titled the show that. He continues to test life and life's experiences. He's training for one of the toughest athletic events, the Ironman Triathlon, and we'll get into that, I'm sure. He's a father to 3 children, Jacqueline, Michael, and Zoe, and there's a big story in there. And, well, there's a lot more. He actively supports Children's Hospital, all these other things. One of the things I want you to know, everybody, is before I give it to you, Duncan, is take a look at this man. Look at him. How old is he? Take a guess. Put it in the chat box. He'll tell us how old he is, but he'll also tell us one of the reasons why he keeps living. Duncan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tom. Good morning.
Hey, so let's start out. It's all about storytelling, man. First of all, we met through public speaking through a Toastmasters group. That was a couple of years ago. I didn't know anything about you and even listening to your speak. But take us back to your childhood. I want to know about the man and where he started. Tell us anything you want. How did that all begin?
Well, I think I'm going to go, first of all, to when we first met. And I was doing a speech called Don't Hit the Snooze Button.
I remember.
It's kind of been my mantra that, like, I'd love to just roll over and not kick out of bed, but all of a sudden there is purpose to every day. And I'll segue back to growing up with 3 other brothers back in Toronto. But it was we were pretty, we got along pretty well. My mom didn't have to break the kids apart too much, but it was it was growing up in the, so for those people who haven't figured out how old I am, I'm a 1951 baby. So growing up in the...
Hold on. You're going to really make us do that math? I just told you my head's not... How old are you? I'm kidding you.
I'll be 72. 72.
Wow. Congratulations, man. Fantastic. Anyway, go ahead.
It's hard work. Like, it's hard. Yeah. It's hard work to be fully alive, energetic, passionate, purposeful.
Yeah.
On a daily basis. You got to continue to commit to it. And I think even growing up back in the 60s, because it's pretty crazy back then. It's just that you got into the mindset of, okay, what's in store for me? And we met kind of life head on, even back in the 60s. I was 18 and I was the oldest of 4 boys, and my dad had a massive heart attack and died at the age of 18. My goodness.
Your dad was sorry, Duncan. Your dad was 18 when he had that heart attack? or
I
you were
was
18?
18. I was
Goodness.
18. Dad was 50, passed away, but there's my poor mom trying to
Wow.
raise four boys in the 60s. So of course we managed, but all of a
Yeah.
sudden it 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 gave me a little bit of a foundation of leadership, if you will, whatever leadership looked like back then at age 18. Yeah, were really interesting times.
Yeah. Listen, I'm sorry. I know that every time you tell a story about anybody you've lost, particularly your dad, and the way that happened, it relives it in your brain. So we want to honor you for that. I love you for telling us that. Let's talk about him for a minute. What was he healthy? Was this something genetic? And do you today in your life worry about that?
Well, a quick story. I was up at our cottage, and it was a couple of years after my dad died, and there I was sitting in the lawn chair, and my brother, my younger brother of about a year and a half younger than me, so he's like 18 at that time. I'm
Yeah.
just 20, and it was a long night the night before. I think we got in at 4 a.m. in the morning. He said, looks like you're having a pretty good life, but but unless you change your ways, you may end up like dad. And it was like, boom, like a dagger in the heart. I
Yeah.
said, what do you mean? He said, well, I just started doing triathlons. I said, what's a triathlon? Well, you swim and you bike, and then you get off your bike and you go for a 10K runner. As in the case of the Ironman, it's a full-on marathon.
Yeah.
I said, I'm up for that. I'm up for that type of challenge. And I started doing that in my mid 30s.
Wow.
And so, the mindset that went into me was that I never want to be that guy who has health issues. And my dad and all his friends, there was always a cigarette in one hand, non-filtered
Yeah.
Buckingham, and a drink in the other hand, a Ryan Coke. And that was what they did every
Yeah.
day. So,
I
it was bound to blow up.
yeah.
And, he died, as I say, at the age of 50, and I carried on. So as you know, Tom, I do a ton of cycling, I
Yeah.
swim, and running is for sure
Yeah.
part of
Yeah.
the process as well. But,
Well,
I
everybody, I
like,
just I just want to jump in there, Doug, and let you catch your breath. Everybody, you're hearing Classic Hero's Journey. This is the storyline. So here's Duncan telling us about. I think you said you had three brothers, and Dad has a heart attack, and he's gone at age 18. I mean, man. And when I think about, because I'm doing a lot of work with brain science because of what I went through with my concussion, that your our adult brain doesn't really develop till 25. So everything that goes in, everyone, and pours in, Duncan's teaching us that memory, that thing, what all he experienced goes in as truth, and it plays over and over again unconsciously, even throughout life. And for some get so paralyzed, Duncan, that they can't live life because the worry of the brain likes to look for danger. It worries, I'm going to die, I'm going to die, I'm going to die. I'm so proud of you, but it's remarkable that, and there's people like you I've met that have taken that and being able to say, no, I'm gonna do something with it. They don't become obsessive, but they do something positive. Your brother's still around today? Are they close to you? Or?
yes, they are. And quick segue, we're all going to die. We're all going to die. But
Good point.
I would like to die, this just a simple old age. There was a guy out there and he shared this story once, and he said, let me ask you a question. If you're healthy and fit and things are going well, pick an age that, you might die at. So I said, okay, 85. He says, yeah, but you're healthy and you're fit and healthy mindset and everything's going great. Why would you die at 85? Pick a new age. Okay, 105. And he said the same thing. I said, okay, 130. But, you know, let's try and stretch it out to, 100. But, I have the energy. I work with a trainer as well. He says, you have as much energy as some of my 30 somethings.
Yeah.
So it's,
Yeah, I think it's
it's,
mindset. Big
It's
mindset
a
you've got.
complete mindset, and
Yeah.
it's what do you want to achieve? What's your legacy? What do you want to achieve in life? What can you really achieve? And a lot of people, it's like a full on stop. The
Yeah.
mind does not get creative.
Get it in another direction. Everybody, if you saw on the podcast, you can't see this, but we're seeing a pair of legs there. My goodness. And I got to just say, first impression, I put this up. What's the first impression, ladies and men? If you're in the chat room, put a chat about this scene. And I'm going to tell you, Duncan, I want to be there. I want to be there because of the palm trees and all that. Looks like somewhere exotic. But man, I also look at these legs and go, if I put mine beside them, I've got Ethiopian chicken legs. And look at the calves on this guy. I think those are your legs. Tell us where this is, and how do you stay in shape for all of the cycling and things you do? Is that you?
You're always reaching out for, a lot of guys.
No, is that you? Is that you? You can't get away with it, but telling us about your legs.
That is me. But
Okay.
it's I put on between 12 and 14,000 K a year on my bike.
Wow. Where is that? Where is that, by the way? Where is that scene? You're there.
Probably in Mexico somewhere. We try and get away to Mexico for 6
There's
to
another
8
shot.
weeks.
I think that's Mexico, right?
Yep, 6 to 8 weeks down in Puerto Vallarta. It's a great cycling spot. Yep, Mexico for sure.
Yeah. I hacked these off of Duncan's phone. Well, he sends me messages and it inspires me. But so you go to Mexico and it seems to be a place. I asked you about how do you train and what do you do to relax?
Go for a 100K bike ride. Hey, that's total bliss.
Yeah.
Like when you can actually, move and move at a fairly quick pace with 20 other guys, it really is an adrenaline rush.
Wow.
It just feels so good to exercise. And, I tell people today, you need to start, for sure, in your 30s and 40s, but even if you're in your 50s, you can still do small incremental things to move your energy around. And when you start moving your energy, your mind comes along at the same time and it gets more creative and imaginative and then becomes more passionate and purposeful.
Yeah. Everybody, these are teaching moments. You're hearing Duncan, you'll come back and listen to this part. Your mind, he's talking about the energy and his, he said he does 100K ride to relax. Well, listen, everybody, there's something to that. I just want to throw this in, Duncan, that one of the things I've been studying is the dopamine system, which a lot of people don't know, but dopamine in the brain, I know you might know this, but for the teaching part, everybody, dopamine system in the brain is the source of all motivation. It's actually the source of epinephrine and norepinephrine. So we all have this baseline level. And when you go out and do things like Duncan's doing with his rides and all, as you're achieving little steps along the way, apparently the dopamine system releases these chemicals. So you have brain cells that throw up chemicals to talk to each other. And so as you're doing this release of dopamine on the way to this big reward, that's what gives it motivation. But here's the dangerous side, Duncan. I learned this from burning out myself, that when people get addicted to something that releases dopamine, the brain just keeps wanting it. So you have some people, unlike what I hear about you, who will get into an elite sport, but they can't stop. The day after the ride, they feel depressed and they don't rest because what's happening is dopamine system, when it has to reset. But what they're saying in brain science, and I'll give it back to you on this, is as you find something that maybe is an extreme, like shopping or watching TV or alcohol or an elite sport, you can find a source that can hack the dopamine system. But they say that the higher you put dopamine levels in your body, they come back down, the harder it is to get up to that baseline. And so people really need to, that's why I was asking you, what do you do for rest? What other things are you doing around that? Talk to us about your profession. So I think you're a intergenerational planner. So this factors into all your elite sports and things. Tell us about that.
Let me finish off on your last comment there before I jump into generational planning. And,
Awesome.
Coming up to the age of 72, I said, how much longer can I, go for 100K bike rides? How much longer can I really do it? And it creeps into your brain. So I'm, like last February as an example, we put on 2,500 kilometers in 1 month. It was like 20 plus something 100K rides in that month. I said, this is really good. But then I came back to Vancouver, pouring rain, like just no motivation at all to go outside, and you have to go to a spin studio.
Yeah.
And it was like really depressing. And it was like, what am I going to do? So I was faced with that dilemma. What are you going to do, and how are you going to do it? But as I age now, what I've developed is called atrial fibrillation. So I have an irregular heartbeat.
Right.
So I went to my cardiologist, and he said, you better take it easy. And because you're on track now for a pacemaker. I said, are you kidding me? A pacemaker? So I'm actually scheduled for a heart operation. And I never ever thought I'd be that guy.
Yeah.
That guy who was, all of a sudden had a health issue. But he said, don't worry, it's a good health issue. We do this operation all the time. So they're doing what's called an ablation operation.
Yeah.
And he said, the really good part of this, it's only a week recovery, and you'll be stronger on the bike afterwards. So it's
that's let me just jump in and honor you. So everybody, what you're hearing is, I mean, here again, Duncan taught us something. He said everybody's has a date. I'll put it that way instead of it's going to die, but everybody has that date. The body is built for, and we're all unique and different. And extreme athletes, they go through different changes, and their bodies get pushed to the limits. But listen to how Duncan, you were talking about this surgery. I'm watching your body language, your face, and you've got this resilience or this ability to project positivity. I know inside because the brain is about fear as well. But this is one of the things that I started thinking about you when I met you. There was always this positivity, and then when I learned about some of the heartbreaks or the setbacks you went through in life, like we all do, this is what keeps you going. I'm going to show you another picture. Who's this?
You know what? There's possibilities at any age. So that was last Labor Day, and
that's amazing. What's her name?
Got married at the age of 71.
Wow.
And I had the conversation with my wife, because she's a few years younger.
Yeah.
And she said, what about this math? There's a 16-year difference ages. She said, I hope I can just keep up with you. So it's
we want to, you can't get away with that little bit there. We got to get to know more. So her name is what, and where did you meet her?
Lynn, and she's from Beijing, and we met through a common friend.
That's awesome. And what does she do for a living, or does she have a profession connected to yours?
She's got an office right beside me. So she's a generational planner as well.
That's awesome.
A CPA. She's got every degree possible.
Yeah.
And she connected with me because of the ability to plan life times 4 generations.
Wow.
So that's really, segueing. That's really what we do. We generationally plan, because what's happened over the last 30 years, a lot of people have had a lot of success.
Yeah.
And traditionally, what you'll do is pass that wealth on to the next generation, to those what are referred to as beneficiaries. But it's a lot of money for some people. And we say, why not, hold it back and develop what we call family trusts, and go into a family trust and allow that money to continue to grow, to do good for the next 50 years or 100 years. And we're in our business, we have what's referred to as a book of business.
Yeah.
So in my book of business, over the next 20 years, I'll transfer close to $1 billion of family wealth.
Wow.
That doesn't need to be all distributed, over the next 20 years. It can be held back, and we can do good for the next, 300, 400 years. So,
amazing.
That's what Lynn does as well.
I was going to put one more picture up here. We're having fun with Duncan today. Are you singing there? She's laughing at you. Is that what's going on?
No, that's
come on.
So I had to take dance lessons.
Of course.
And that was the first
You
dance.
stepping on her feet or what? What's going on?
Yeah, that was
See
the
that?
first dance. She said, you did it. You made it. Guys don't know how to dance. They, come on. I grew up in the 60s and 70s, the
Hey
disco
man.
era.
Hey man, if you go down to Nashville, I remember I went there because my publisher for my books in New York, and they took us there. They got an office, and it's like they got this line dancing thing, and I'm all thumbs. And Duncan, honestly, Anna, my beautiful Italian Anna, she can dance, and I'm pathetic. It's just one of those things. It's like, okay, I'll watch somebody else dance. So I want to get back into the story, everyone, and where we're headed here. As you heard, Duncan, on Ontario, Canada, everybody, for our international audience, is the eastern side of our country. I'm in British Columbia, and then there's three brothers growing up in life. A tragedy. The father passed away. By the way, Duncan, what we do in the storytelling is I always try to find threads, and this is remarkable. Everyone, I didn't know Duncan until I met him through public speaking. But number one thread, I have two brothers. Number two, so I have a brothers as well. Number two thread, my father passed away from a heart attack. My father had a drink in one hand, probably a lot more than yours, but dad was dry 23 years when he passed, Duncan, in 2018. The difference is, I always say there's threads in our stories, but your father left tragically that way. My father left home to have affairs and go and enjoy his life. I was at the age 12 and pretty much became homeless. Had to grow up and learn life on my own. I also wasn't taught how to love and care for people because of what I saw and what his behavior was from the alcohol. So I always find that, and why I share this with you is that I learn from you because there's things in your life that I see you do that I can't do, and so you're teaching me. In other words, coming from the loss of a father, how is he navigating? How is he turning that into something positive? So thanks very much. I wish I'd met you before my dad passed, could have sat down and had a chat with him. Then now we go into the marriage. So you got engaged now, but were you married before? You were married once before, I think, right?
I tried it.
You tried.
I tried it. It didn't quite work out.
Yeah.
Oh, it's yeah. Lynn and I just completely connect,
Awesome.
and we're both have similar goals, and I think in the simplicity of it, we just really want to grow and have fun together.
Yeah. It's awesome.
And
I can see that. So let's go back to the intergenerational planner because I do want you to have some time here to educate people on what you do. So everybody, I've been following Duncan, and by the way, if you don't know Duncan online, check him out. Get him on his LinkedIn feed. Duncan, I'm always seeing you putting up posts about education and things around financial or intergenerational wealth planning. My experience has also been curious because I went through a reset where I was part of a Ponzi scheme in 2010, which changed the game. Ann and I'm 28 years married now, Duncan, and we had everything. I was a CEO, high paid. She was a manager in a bank. We couldn't worry about things. We were blessed. Both came from immigrant families, so didn't start with much. Went through this Ponzi scheme and pretty much lost most of our financial assets. So rebuilding is one thing when you talk about when somebody meets you and they go through their lifeline and you see what they've got and they have to midlife, they have to start over again. I want to hear some thoughts on that. And if you have any personal experience with something like that. And then the other one is a lot of owner operators. I know a lot of people who run businesses, independent owners. They started off the side of their coffee table. It grows into this. I mean, I do executive coaching with these guys. It's hard for them to let go of leadership of the company. It's hard for many of them to understand if tomorrow they die, there's all this trapped wealth and chaos in the company, and in the time of death, the family is literally in peril. Nobody knows what's going on. The financial plan wasn't done. So I know I threw a lot of you, just in any way you can, to touch on those two questions for us.
well, one of the biggest thing for business owners or even families is when something happens to the key person in the family, whether it's dad,
Yeah,
whether it's mom, is usually there's little or no liquidity, because they are what we refer to as the human capital.
yeah,
So the ability to go out and make money is now gone. What do you do? And so I'm, in an intergenerational planner, and one of our big foundations is having an appropriate amount of life insurance, because life insurance is now, if that person is passed on, is now the human capital of that family, and they can draw an income from that life insurance. So most business owners work really hard on the business, and really don't step back and figure out how they're going to get out of the business.
Yeah.
So it's just work, 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 and they never really put somebody in place that can succeed them. Succession planning.
Yeah.
So it's always really, really tough for a business owner to let go of their baby, because it's been their baby from coffee table to 200 people working for them, or even 25 people working for them. How do you let go? So we help them through that process in letting go and doing the appropriate planning, so they can realize the equity, whether it's 5 million or 50 million, to get that out of the business as tax
Yeah.
effectively as possible.
I just want to relate to, thanks for sharing that. Everybody, teaching moments from the Duncan here about if you're a business owner. I want to talk about the psychological part of that with you. I think you've just now or in the past just achieved this level, this educational accreditation that is Family Enterprise Advisor or something. So when I give it back to you, just tell us that, because I think it's important that people know they should go to people like Duncan, because they're rare for this expertise. But I run my own business. 10 years ago, I started it after being a paid exec. And I got to be honest with you, Duncan, I got 3 kids. Justin and Daniel are my stepsons. They're older and married, love them, but they don't really care about my business, and nor do I enforce it. You got to. But then there's my daughter, who's in university in New Brunswick, the other side of the country, 4th year engineering. And I when I had my accident, I brought her in as sort of a summer student, and so she does some of the stuff I can't do with my eyes sometimes. But I think about that all the time. The value of my business is growing, Duncan. I've got digital assets and stuff I've created, and it's going to be a 6-7 figure. I want to exit it sometime, but I have difficulty thinking, how am I, like, you want me to find somebody I can bring in now and start, and it's a big trust factor. Honestly, I mean, I'm pretty smart. I've been through business, but I have trouble with this one, trying to think about somebody in here taking on my business at some point. There's this fear all the time of, you're going to get screwed, or I've been through this Ponzi scheme, things like that. So tell us how, when you're meeting with somebody that you're trying to have that conversation, anything that you talk to them about, or you have a team of people who can come in and maybe help them get through that.
Really, like, one of the great questions is, if you're not here tomorrow, what happens?
Right.
If you're not here tomorrow, what happens? So
Yeah.
all of a sudden, in Tom's case, you've got Anna, you've got the 3 kids. What do you want your legacy to be, and how will you realize the value today? So pick an exit point, whether it's 60 or 65, and maybe you want to be that consultant along the way. But you've developed a pretty good business there, and all of a sudden you want to realize the value, because we all hit that stop line at a future point in time. And the secret to that one is nobody knows.
Yeah.
Nobody knows when the finish, where the finish line is. Peter Legge described it as a runway of life.
Yeah.
And as you get older, the runway becomes shorter and shorter and shorter. And everybody's heard the thing called the rocking chair test. And if you could do something that you didn't do, what would that be? And people can pick pretty much anything right away.
Yeah.
And what they wish they had have done. But you got to enjoy life at the same time. So I'm 72. People ask me, how much longer are you going to work? Well, so we travel 2 to 3 months a year. I'm able
I like
to
that. I like that part of your story. Wow.
we're able to deliver passion and purpose to people.
Yeah.
There's, never mind, retiring, there's another 20 or 30 decisions that you'll make between retiring and, the final breath of life.
Exactly.
So what you want to do is have that plan in place. 7 out of 10 people do not have a current up-to-date will.
So if somebody needs that and they need to work with you, the first step is connecting to you. And I assume that you're going to have an initial sit down, because most of the people that I know including me, sometimes they don't understand your business. And, I used to sell life insurance in my early days. I understand that part, but so that's the first step, right? Just get past your fear, connect to somebody, and then you have a process. And that's really as simple as it is, right? Just reach out.
Reach out and what? Reach
Reach
out
out
and
and
touch,
touch
right?
someone.
Reach
I was gonna
out
put
and reach out
uh
and touch. No, it's discovery.
yeah,
You
you read
know, what
my
do you have
mind.
today? What
Yeah.
do you have today? Where are you going? And how are you going to exit?
Yeah, I
So
love it.
it's
Either
pretty straightforward. You talk life insurance, and people always say, life insurance. I say, you know what? If you don't like the word life insurance, just throw it away.
yeah,
But everything you've told me about your family, your business, your legacy, your favorite charities, that's what life insurance does. But
that's right.
throw the word away. Um, on your completion of life, if we can deliver a check of XYZ, whether it's 500,000 or 5 million, you're going to be around for a little bit longer because that is the life of you.
Yeah. Listen, Duncan, again, more threads, everybody. My brain's going in a million directions. And as you're listening to Duncan on this one part of the conversation, are you thinking about somebody or somebody or did you just go through a loss where you had this chaos? When my father died, it was chaos. My mom and dad had been divorced for most of my life, but nobody knew my dad's affairs, Duncan. And his will wasn't found. And uh, my younger brother has a mental illness, Tourette syndrome. And so he was dependent on dad, all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, boom, I'm the executor, it hits me. And then there's expenses to pay for funeral and all of this. Now, we were able to work it out, but behind me right now, by the way, in this next room through those doors behind my studio is a lady named Anna, my wife, and she works for the Royal Bank. No plug, by the way, for Royal, but she's an estate planner, Duncan. She was a branch manager, by the way. They closed her branch when COVID hit. And her and I met in the banking industry a long time ago. But she's on the phone all day at 8:30 to 4:30. Hello, how can I help you? And then you hear a pause and you say, I just want to start by saying I'm sorry for your loss. My story about my business when I had my concussion brain injury, you talk about life insurance. Man, Duncan, I made a big mistake. I didn't, because I was a new entrepreneur, relatively, I didn't think about continuity of business and that kind of disruption. And so the last 5 years, that's what been one of my biggest challenges. It's good to have a Duncan in your care team for the rest of your life, somebody you can go to get advice, and everything is on the table because we don't get taught that in school. I want to shift gears again, and I want to talk about something I know in your life that changed your life, and I'm going to put up an image here, and I want you to read that passage out loud to us. Just take your time.
Okay, thank you, Tom. I never imagined the word cancer in a child, never mind my own son, but it happened. And then we went through the process of getting Michael better. But on the day he was supposed to return to school, the other words you never really want to hear. Your son has relapsed. We'll do all we can. However, we've used the most aggressive treatment plan out there, and all we can do now is manage the pain. Your son will complete his life soon at the age of 14. Those words still resonate. However, Michael gave me hope in his words. Will you be okay, Dad? Because I will. He knew.
Wow. Everybody, I'm going to let Duncan just take a breath for a minute. Duncan shared with me a story, and he doesn't talk about it too much. I didn't know until just through threads. But Duncan, I'm so sorry. We all are. You lost somebody in your life that was very dear to you. Can you talk a little bit about this chapter of your life and how you navigated through it? You want to share anything about Michael? Some great memories.
Well, what I learned because I after Michael passed away in July of '97, I ended up taking 2 years off and did whatever I could for others. He went to a place called Canuck Place, which is
Yeah.
a hospice for children. So he had his final 2 weeks in a hospice that really educated him that Life, whether it's 14 years or 85 years, that's your life.
Yeah.
And you will go on to a new, better, different life. So it's okay to die.
Yeah.
So those were the words that he delivered to me. I'm going to be okay. And one day we'll see each other again. So, like, Michael speaks to me every day. He speaks to me in his spirit, in his own quiet wisdom of energy. And for me, it's, taking the 2 years off, working with Canuck Place Children's Hospital, Canadian Cancer. It was like, what can I do to give back,
Yeah.
to trying to do whatever little part I can do to make a difference in solving this word of cancer. So that's, and I've been doing it for 25 years, Tom.
Yeah.
Whether it's the Canuck Place, Ronald McDonald House, like a whole bunch of charities, and it integrates into our work as well because people have, in British Columbia now, our highest marginal tax rate is 53%.
Yeah. It's
You
crazy.
can you can offset that through charitable gifts to Children's Hospital. Pick a
Yeah.
pick a charity, but if you don't do it, you're basically Canada Revenue Agency is a charity of choice, and nobody wants that. So
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
I did whatever I could to give back, and serendipitously, if you will, I found the business of life, the life insurance business, and so when I sit down with a family, they, after about 5 minutes, they say, "You're not here to sell us any life insurance, are you?" I said, "That's your choice.
Yeah.
I'm here to help you and help you understand that." And here's kind of my mantra words that life is perfectly imperfect.
Yeah.
That's the perfection of it. Perfect.
Yeah.
Can't change life,
Let
but
me
you
ask you.
can.
Let me ask you a question. Sorry, I have to just ask this because I know my answer to it. Do you find yourself wanting to, or sometimes in your moments, do you just sit and cry or express that sadness still?
Yeah. So I had my dad die at 50 and my son die at 14. So I say why, but it's giving me
Yeah.
this inner strength to help others, to be that role model, if you will. And sure, I have those moments,
Yeah.
but it, quite literally, it gives me strength.
Yeah.
Gives me strength to help others.
Yeah.
And if I can be that shining star role model, that beacon of hope
Yeah.
to somebody else, just through maybe a sentence of words,
Yeah.
that it's okay. You can manage this. You can get through this. We saw it during COVID, and all this
Exactly.
mental breakdown. It's temporary.
Yeah.
It's
I want
temporary.
to. I want to just say something here. Thank you. We honor you. It's another thread in my story, not the parallel, certainly not comparing, but my first child with my wife, prior to that, was raising her two, was little Tommy. And I still have a little statue in my living room with his bracelet, but we lost him right at a term. And, it is just something that you can't explain to others. But what I find is your story, man, like you become so real when this part of your story comes out. Everything else is awesome. You're the bike rider, you're this, you're the wealth. But this story connects you to the heart of so many. I want to share everybody how Duncan lit up some of the other day, and I hope I don't embarrass you, but we're in a public speaking club, and there was a woman that did a speech, and Duncan was her evaluator. So in the club, somebody presents a 5-7 minute speech, and somebody's assigned to evaluate them. And because Duncan had the wherewithal to connect with her before, there was a thread in these two stories that came out. And she had a daughter diagnosed with cancer. It's just a beautiful thing. When you talk about this story, Duncan, and it's painful, people think they have to cover it. I'm not talking about it. When we talk about it, you change so many people in the world, giving them hope. So I show you this again. I don't think I've shown it to you, but this is my medal from the Ride to Conquer Cancer. I keep this in my pocket because it's a day my life changed. So riding has brought Duncan all these things. Two stories, the same, right? Riders, I did 225K, but the memory behind my medal could be they took my vision and I'm disabled and blah, blah. What you're teaching me to do, and I'm so proud of you, Duncan, is every day I put this in my pocket, but I work hard and it's not easy. I'm not going to lie to you. I try to remember why God put me in that moment and what I'm to do now with that story, which is teaching, educating, giving people hope. And the other day I stood in a room and I told that story about resilience and things to 30 people. And I had people come up to me. That's why I'm alive. That's why I keep doing it. So keep telling that story. There's a picture I just want to share, and I'll give it back to you if you want to have anything final on this. You see that I made this, so everyone, you can see that there's the beautiful lady there, and a little bicycle is his. And I couldn't figure out what to do, so I just thought, angel with wings. There's Duncan up in the corner, and there's beautiful Michael. So anything more you want to say?
Nice segue, but I did this book.
Yeah, let's put that up there. Hold on a sec.
I did this book called Sudden Impact.
Awesome.
Whether it was really about the story of Michael. And
let's see if we can full screen you so we can get that properly. Hold on a sec. Try to show that. There we go. Wow. Tell us a bit about that book.
So that was the story of my journey on sudden impact.
Yeah.
And, diagnosed at 13, I just come back from the Boston Marathon. We didn't have cell phones back then. Had to listen to the message on my answering machine.
Yeah.
Michael's down at Children's Hospital now and
wow,
diagnosed with acute lymphocytic leukemia. So sudden impact, like we have every day, something that is like impacts us suddenly.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, how do you deal with it?
Exactly.
For me, going back, it's fitness, it's exercise that, you can manage this, you can get through this. You're not here unless you could manage this and get through this. And, I know, for a lot of people, it's the financial part of it because all of a sudden they're without a job. They're disabled. They don't have any, income coming in. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
Planning. You got to plan this stuff. So everybody's going to have another sudden impact next year and every year thereafter. How do you deal with it? So for me, it's just being physically fit, both mentally and physically, and being able to take on those sudden impacts because they'll continue to come at you.
Thank you, everybody. We'll have that in the show notes. Duncan's book that he had written, again, a published or an author, published author, maybe. Again, something I've really learned about that story is just the power of, again, the power of resilience. So the thing I'm thinking about here is unreleased trauma, and so I had to go through this curve myself, Duncan, because for a long time I still can't cry. I got to tell people I'd have to have an onion here if I wanted to fake it. But what's buried beneath that, and I've learned through therapy and whatnot, getting through the last many years, my injury, is that if we just cover it up with other things, that is the chakras. If you study the body, the energy chakras, the bottom one is trauma. And if it's trapped there, the energy doesn't go up through to the top of the head. So you see somebody like Duncan here. But Duncan, I'm going to say this to you, and I love you, and I know you know this. I want you to keep telling the story, but keep telling people they need to talk about their losses, and they need to talk about positives. Tell us 2 things that you remember about Michael that are beautiful thoughts.
Michael was a kid of, to use your word, I will steal your word, resilience. So something crappy happened. He was a little athlete as well, and played soccer and hockey. And and back then when they were growing up, as a parent, you tried to teach them everything was a tie.
Yeah.
It's like 3-3. I said, no, Dad, we lost. It was 5-3, but it's okay. We'll beat that team next time. And he played goal in hockey and played at a high level at, even at the age of 12. So it was resilience. He had a really kind heart and kind soul, and he would give time to anybody.
That's
So,
amazing.
the human characteristics carried over to his two sisters as well. And he was really a role model for his younger sister and his older sister. So, and they can tell you stories about him today. So 25 years later,
Yeah.
he'd be 40. He'd be now 40.
Yeah.
Time just marches on.
I see somewhere, I can't tell people when I meet them what to do, but I see a book in your future, a memoir or something that is connected to the beautiful teachings from your son. I just want to do this one more time. Everybody, you just heard about Michael. What a beautiful soul. But look at that last line here. Those words still resonate. Michael gave me hope in these words. Will you be okay, Dad? Because I will. I mean, this is at a 14-year-old. That's remarkable because he's still a child.
I just finished that quick story off. So, it was 2 days before he ended up completing his life.
Yeah.
And, he was sitting in the wheelchair, just riddled with cancer.
Mm.
And he said, Dad, are you going to be okay? His quiet little voice. He says, I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. I know I'm going to die.
Yeah. That's something.
So,
Well,
yeah, thanks. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm pausing because that hits me. So we've come full circle. Here's a man who's done so much in his life. He's become an intergenerational wealth planner. He's raised children. He's had a tragedy come through it and uses that to inspire others. He's written books and published, and I'm challenging him again to write another. Maybe I'll help publish that. And he's married again at 70s. He's got this incredible outlook. He has all the warts and demons and struggles, including the need to get a pacemaker. But you know what? That's not where he focuses, everybody. And when you focus on positive thinking, look what you get. So I'm going to take you back into your passion, man. I'm going to share one more thing. I didn't tell you I was going to do this. We're going to put a video up, a video on the screen there. And this is the RBC Grand Fondo Whistler. This 2022. And I don't know if you're in this crowd or not. I just found this, but I want to play a clip and then I want to have you and I watch together, but I want you to talk about it. Like, go into the riders and what goes on in your damn mind when you're doing this. And is there pain? Is there, like, how are you dealing with this? So it looks to me like there's a whole group of riders. Some were going up a hill. I'm just going to pause it for a minute. So
Stanley Park.
Yeah. So
it's through Stanley Park. It's really intense for 4 hours.
Wow. Tell me about what that intense means. What's going through your mind, your body, whatever.
Well, that's going up Prospect Point Hill, gradient of 9 to 11%.
Whoa.
And you just want to maintain pace with the guys who are beside you.
Yeah.
And you don't want to lose the group that you're riding with, because the key to successful cycling is maintaining a pace line and drafting all the way to Whistler.
Wow.
So the elevation gain to Whistler is 2,500 meters, just under 8,000 feet.
Yep.
And so when you're climbing at 9 to 11%, it's like the heart rate shoots up, and you're just trying to maintain speed and pace.
Duncan, when you're on that bike and after a while, do you look down or do you look ahead? What's the best thing, especially going up a hill?
Always looking ahead at the wheel in front of you, because you're no more than 6 inches in front of the behind the wheel, in front of you, and you don't want to touch that wheel, because if you touch that wheel, you're going to hit the pavement, and you got 25 people behind you. They're going to go over top of you, and I've seen tons of crashes like that. All of a sudden you're on a descent going into Squamish, as an example, going 70k an hour. Yeah, that's going up the Highway 1 towards Taylor Way.
So Highway 1, everybody, is a significant highway that connects to our mainland and the North Shore, they call it, but over to what we call BC Ferry. So we're surrounded by water. This is a car for a car, but this looks like a killer hill. So tell me, how do you train for something like this? Let me just stop this. How do you train, Duncan, for something like this?
Lots of long rides of 100 plus K.
Yeah.
At a high speed.
At a
And
high speed.
you're
Wow.
always pushing your limit,
Yeah.
always pushing the limit.
Yeah.
And like it feels great when you're done, but
Yeah.
it's hell on wheels. Like it's hard. Like
Yeah.
I give and especially as you get older,
Yeah.
staying fit as you get older is hard work, but
Yeah.
it's well worth the effort.
There you go, everybody. It's from somebody who's done this and he's doing something now. He's training for. We'll finish maybe to get something on that. I did the Ride to Conquer Cancer. I did finish it despite my first my injury, that bathtub fall. And one of the things I learned, Duncan, is the power. Again, it's a lot of mindset for me because I wasn't really somebody like you who had done it before, and and then now everybody, I just want to teach this because it's again my passion for brain science. If you go to PubMed or neuroscience articles on this dopamine system, there's a great book by Dr. Anna Lemke. She appeared on the Andrew Huberman podcast, and Andrew's a Stanford scientist on brain science, and he runs a lab on the dopamine system. But what I started doing, Duncan, because I had somebody train me initially, my Roger and his wife Darla, and by the way, they lost their daughter to leukemia at age 11. And the week I rode with them, or the year I rode with them, they were about to crush through $1 million in fundraising, and they have 80 riders. It's just something else. Yeah, Roger Steers with RJC Engineering. You guys should connect. But what I learned is that quiet little moments, quiet little celebrations. So, for example, everybody going up that hill, if I got to top of the hill, I would say in my mind's eye, yes, I did it. I can do it again. And that's it. No big celebration. The next milestone, yes, I did it. And each one of those little yeses releases dopamine. Here's something I'm going to blow your mind with, Duncan, that Andrew Huberman taught on his podcast. And again, he's a neuroscientist. This guy's credible. He said, if I could teach professional athletes they got it backwards. He said, you see all those football games where the guys, they get the touchdown, they go in the end zone, they're doing the big dance. He said, I now tell those guys, stop it. Don't do that. Because how you release more dopamine is not at the actual achievement of the goal. You release the dopamine in your system at little points along the way, but you don't celebrate. Yes, I can do it again. When you wait till the end, he says, and you do the big celebration, basically what provides the body the ability to do more next time is those little releases of dopamine, not the big one. Because he said you could have a bike ride that takes you 8 hours and all you do is you go, yeah, and you do the big dance at the end. The next time you do it, he said your dopamine system is not going to let you go that far. But if you celebrate those little things, and it's all about hacking the brain, it's amazing. Tell us about what you're working towards as triathlete, and then we'll wrap up with a bit of an award for you today. You're working on something big.
Well, Ironman is kind of the epitome, the epitome of every triathlete's dream. And, we started actually doing them in the 80s. And so I figured that, well, at the age of 70, I'm in a new age group class. And I'm in the youth of my age group, 70 to 74. So why not take on this 4K swim, 112-mile bike, and then go run a marathon? Why not? So it's just a segue back to your moment there. It is the little wins along the way. It's not you get to the finish line. You finished 140 kilometers. My best time is just over 11 hours, but it's
really that. Sorry, yes. Duncan, you just got me excited, man. Oh my goodness, 11 hours. That's remarkable. I mean, even I know that. Good for you.
It's a lot of work, I got to tell you. But it's what really keeps me going is I did a thing with Brian Tracy, and it's called Success Today.
Tell everybody who he is. Sorry to jump in there.
Brian Tracy is one of the godfathers of motivational inspiration.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll put this up. So that's Brian Tracy.
I'm going to full screen you there. Just make sure we see that.
That's Brian Tracy. On my left, you're right. And from Vancouver, he now lives in California. But he asked me, what's your secret to success? I said, Brian, I describe it as this. It's the 4 C's. And first of all, you have to commit to something, whether it's a you know, a family relationship or whatever you want to commit to on a daily basis, commit. But then you have to find the courage to commit. And with that courage, you're probably going to need new capabilities. But once you discover those new capabilities and do it,
Yeah.
then all of a sudden what happens? You've got a new level of confidence. And if you continue to go through that process, you're gonna raise your confidence level to new levels on a daily, weekly, annual, lifetime basis. So that's kind of my mantra on a daily basis.
That's great, everybody. Teaching moment as we move to wrapping up here with Duncan Robinson. I mean, there's so many things you taught us today, Duncan, and the storyline is just remarkable. I just want to throw the bicycle back on the screen here as a hack. Look at, well, how much do you pay for one of those?
You can buy a car.
I mean, here I am trying. I borrowed John McComb. He's a friend of mine. His bike, I didn't have one, and these guys are all around me are riding things like this, and I'm going like, "You got big knobby tire. This kind of how much?" And I was blowing my mind. But hey, and when you're an elite athlete, you get the best equipment. I'm gonna full screen something here and show you because we are going to honor you today. So you kind of see me making notes here as I go. These aren't scripted. And Duncan knows I don't pre-script or talk to people. I do not ask questions. I think it's a bunch of BS to do that. So the first word to honor you in leadership words is resilience. Clearly, man, every part of this interview, we watch it back, is it. Humility. There's this quiet humility about you. I haven't ever seen you brag about yourself, even when you show us the books and things. Something that I think leaders need. They say the difference, Duncan, between knowledge and wisdom is time. So you're a man of wisdom. You got to go to Duncan for wisdom, whether you lost a child and you're trying to get through it, whether you are running a business and you need financial planning, or you're worried about the family estate, all of that, or whether you want to ride a bike better, which is what I'm going to probably talk to you about. The last word, the fourth one, is fear. You might think, why am I saying fear as a leadership word? Because I see fear in your eyes when you talk sometimes, and that's what leaders need to show. Because if we don't cover up that fear, then we're unauthentic. So there are moments when I put up that slide about your son's quote, I saw you fighting that fear. And I loved you more then for showing us that little bit of fear. Because without that, you're not real. So you'll see on the back screen behind me there, Duncan, there's a picture. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
And that is what we call a challenge coin. Have you heard of these?
Nope.
You're getting one. They were established in World War II. And when I started the show, I had them minted. They're handcrafted and painted. The front is actually raised letters. It's the show emblem. The back is actually the full illustration of the hero journey narrative by Joe Campbell, who created this narrative of storytelling and threads connecting people. So when you come on my show, put your ego at the door, tell your story like this, and prove to us that you're not just talking, you're living your dream of making lives better, you become a quiet warrior. So I'm inducting you into the Quiet Warrior tribe, only 40 of these a year. Congratulations, Duncan. And they're now in 17 countries, and people carrying them, you're all connected by thread. My dream one day is to have you all somewhere. Maybe we can do a bike ride of Quiet Warriors. But congratulations, Duncan.
Last word.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I'm going to see you face to face for that. Got a little photo up. Last word to you before we wrap about where can we get a hold of you, any of your publications, and also do you have a website?
www.duncanrobinson.com or Duncan@achievewealthcanada.com.
All right, that's awesome. And last word, anything you want to give the audience, advice, wisdom, or just a passing last word before I let you go?
You know what? Life is hard. Life is hard, but make fun out of it. Make fun out of it. And when you're met with adversity, that's your calling to find that inner strength, because you do have the inner strength within you to deal with whatever you're happen to be faced with at that moment in time. But enjoy the ride along the way.
All right, perfect segue. Thank you, Duncan. We'll have you back again. There's more we're going to talk about.
Thank you for listening to the Quiet Warrior Show. Create is a motive-based leadership development firm. www.kreat.ca.